What's going on, gardeners? It's the end of the year here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, and today I'm going to share with all of you 8 different tasks that you should do at the start of every new calendar year for a successful growing season. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated. The first thing that I like to do at the start of every new growing season is to plan my garden layout and figure out where I'm going to roughly place everything, for 2 different reasons. Number 1, this will help you if you rotate your crops for the benefits of crop rotation, and number 2, you will know exactly how much space you have available in your garden so you know how many plants you can actually grow. When it comes to crop rotation, I really only rotate my nightshades and my cucurbits because they're so disease prone and so pest prone, and I do it generally like this. On this half of the garden, all over here last year, I planted most of my nightshades, my tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. And then on this half of the garden last year, I planted most of my cucurbits, my melons, my watermelons, my cucumbers, my zucchini. So I'm simply going to flip them, and this year I'm going to plant most of my tomatoes and peppers on this half of the garden, and I'm going to plant most of my cucurbits on that half of the garden. And that is how I basically rotate my crops. And because I know exactly where I'm going to plant everything, I now know how many of each plant I can grow to maximize my space. And having a general layout and plan like that is one of the best things that you can do at the start of each year to have a successful harvest. The second thing that you'll want to do at the start of every single new growing season is to amend your garden beds or your soil if you don't grow in raised beds like I do. And I do this periodically throughout the year, but I pay special attention to it now. One of the first things I do is I place kitchen scraps on top of my garden bed. As you can see, this garden bed is littered with different kitchen scraps. You can also choose organic slow-release soil amendments like an all-purpose granulated fertilizer, something like bone meal, something like blood meal. There are other things you can buy. You can buy alfalfa meal, you could buy oyster shell meal. The list is long, azomite, all kinds of things that you can amend your soil with. Then when all is said and done, you want to amend your beds with things like compost and a natural mulch as well. And the reason why you want to do this now is because these things usually take 2, 3, 4 months or longer to break down. And you want the nutrients to be bioavailable for when you transplant your seedlings in the spring. So if you start now, you'll get a good 3-month jump start so everything can decompose and your soil can get good quality. That way you will have fresh, loamy soil rich in organic matter to start the new growing season. The third thing that I like to do at the start of every new growing season is to order my annual vegetable seeds. And I like to do this in late December, early January, because it's generally as soon as the online seed suppliers and the seed catalogs stock their new stuff for the new year. And this is also one of the best times you should do it, because when you're early like this, they often give a lot of free seeds away when you make your order. I just placed an order and I got 4 free packets of seed just because I was an early bird person. Now, if you need to know where you can buy some seeds, off the top of my head, some great locations are Tomato Growers, Victory Seeds, Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, Territorial Seed, Baker Creek, Burpee, Johnny's Selected Seeds, Tomato Fest. The list is long. There are so many great companies out there, but that should point you in the right direction. And I'll make sure to link to a video above where I spent some time last year evaluating some of these seed companies. This is also why it's ever so important to have a garden plan and a layout, because when you know exactly how much space you have in your garden, you can know exactly how many seeds you can order. Once I lay out my garden and know how many spaces I have available to grow my plants, I make a spreadsheet and fill up the empty space with a wide variety of things that I want to grow. In this spreadsheet, the cells in white are seeds I already have left over from previous years that I want to grow again. The seeds in yellow are seeds I'm going to order for the new season. The cells in green are the free seeds I'm getting for being an early purchaser that I want to try out. And the cell in orange is a strange rare variety that I'm special ordering for fun. The fourth thing that you should be doing about this time is ordering bare root trees. And I say bare root trees because now is generally the best time for you to order deciduous trees that have a dormant period that nurseries dig up bare root, and they ship during dormancy. The best time to order those trees are generally between November to late January to early February. I placed several orders myself. I placed orders for 2 apple trees, a peach tree, and a 4-in-1 grafted Asian pear. And last year I ordered my blueberries at about this time. So that should give you a good example of what I'm talking about here. Now when it comes to reputable nurseries to buy fruit trees online, specifically of the bare root types, here are some places I like to order from or have heard great reviews. Just Fruits and Exotics Nursery, Cummins Nursery, Bottoms Nursery, Edible Landscaping, Plant Me Green, Plantogram, One Green World, Peaceful Heritage, Bay Laurel Nursery, Bay Flora, Rain Tree. Those are just some examples off the top of my head that I've either done business with or heard great things about. So that should point you in the right direction if you're looking for deciduous or bare root fruit trees to order now, because generally they will start shipping in late winter or early spring when the frosts and freezes stop and it's safe to ship those types of trees through the mail. The 5th thing that you should be doing at this time of year is rooting your fig cuttings. Figs, if you love growing them, now is peak fig season, so it's a great time to buy fig cuttings. It's a great time to start rooting fig cuttings. Now when it comes to places to buy fig cuttings, I have an enormous list in a video that I will link to above of highly reputable places for you to get your fig cuttings. Generally speaking, I recommend rooting your fig cuttings right away once you get them. You can save them until spring if you put them in a Ziploc bag and put them in your vegetable crisper in your refrigerator, but generally speaking, you'll have a better chance of rooting them right away when they're as fresh as possible. And also, if you wait until March, April, May to root your fig cuttings, while it is easier since the temperatures are easier to do it outside instead of having to do it inside, if you wait that late in the season, by the time they root, you will never get fruit off of them for the new growing season. If you get your fig cuttings to root by January or February, in most places there's enough time in the season for you to actually get a small harvest off of them by late August, early September, believe it or not. So that's why I like rooting my fig cuttings now and not buying them now and waiting until the spring. But your mileage may vary. If you have better luck rooting them outdoors when it stops frosting and freezing outside, you can make that choice if you prefer that way. The 6th task that I recommend that you do during this time of year, shortly after the new year, is pruning your deciduous trees. Your fig trees, for example. Now is about when I'm going to start pruning my fig trees. If you live in a much colder climate than I do, it's generally better to do it early if your fig trees are subject to dieback because they may not make it until January. Alternatively, if you live in a warmer climate, you still may need to wait a little while longer for your trees to go fully dormant. But generally speaking, midwinter is about the time you want to do that. Same thing when it comes to other deciduous fruit trees like your apples, your pears, your persimmons, what have you, your peaches. It may be a little bit early right now. You may want to wait until mid to late winter for that, but probably depending on your climate, sometime in January to February is about when you're going to want to do that. If you also grow a lot of citrus like I do, now is generally the best time to prune them as long as you've harvested most of the fruit off of them. I just recently showed you how to prune an in-ground citrus tree. That is my Meyer lemon bush. I'll make sure to link to that video above. If there's no fruit on it, now is the best time to do that. If you still have some citrus like this potted lemon or like my blood orange that hasn't been fully harvested yet, they will probably be picked clean in the next couple of weeks. And then it would be the ideal time to prune those trees back. The 7th thing that I like to do this time of year is plant my alliums, and that includes things like onions, bunching onions, garlic, shallots, leeks, and other things in that family. And right here I just showed you how to plant my garlic just a couple of weeks ago. I'll make sure to link to that video above. They're already anywhere from 6 to 12 inches tall, and they are looking incredibly healthy. Also, within the next week or so, I will start my onion seeds. I'll be growing yellow onions, I will be growing purple onions, and I will also be growing shallots. And I like to start them in seed trays because, number one, they don't like being direct seeded because they are so tiny when they germinate. They often get washed away by rain or they get outcompeted by weeds. So I really recommend starting your onions and shallots in seed trays. Also, I like to start them about now because I want them to germinate in the seed trays throughout January, so I don't have to plant them out until really February when it starts ticking up and getting slightly warmer, because onions are only hardy to around 20 degrees Fahrenheit or so. They're not as hardy as garlic. So I want to put them out on the back half of the winter, the later side of winter, when things start to mild out and days get a little bit longer. Now is the ultimate time to do it for zone 8 where I live, and if you live in more northern zones, you may want to give it a couple of more weeks and look to transplant your seedlings maybe more like in early March. And the 8th and final thing I like to do for the start of every new year to get that new year off on the right foot for a successful gardening season is to start my cold hardy greens for the spring. Now in this bed right here that you see, all these beautiful vegetables are things that I planted in late summer that I will be harvesting very shortly in the winter. And now I'm going to have to start my new transplants to mature in the spring. And for me, because I live in a place with very hot and oppressive summers, I have to start them pretty early in the winter because they need to mature before the heat starts really moving in May, because these types of cold hardy greens are really susceptible to bolting. So for me, I will be starting these plants soon. Now, what plants am I talking about specifically? I'm talking about hardy lettuces, spinach, cabbage, kale, and broccoli. For those type of cold hardy leafy greens, I like to start them in seed trays about now, and then when the days start getting a little bit longer, come late January, early February, I like to plant them out in another bed, probably that one right there that I have prepped and ready to go right next to me. Then come early February, I will direct sow my root vegetables like my carrots, my radishes, and my beets for a late winter, early to mid-spring harvest, depending on the variety. Now, obviously, if you live in a warmer climate than me or a colder climate than me, you will have to fine-tune your dates, because you can't start them when it's too cold, but you need them to mature before it gets too hot. And those are 8 things that you can do at the start of every new calendar year to help ensure that you have a successful new gardening season. So everybody, if you found this video helpful, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you're notified when we upload more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use in my garden, they're all linked down below in my Amazon storefront in the video description. Also, check out my spread shop while you're there if you'd like to buy some custom merchandise to support the channel. Thanks again so much for watching, and we hope to see all of you again on every video here in this next new growing season. Boy, it is an ugly day out here driving north. Not very nice. What do you think, bud? You okay back there? Dale gets the car sick, so he's on his Serenias. Yeah, we're in the green machine. We're in the Vomit Comet. He's being a very good boy. He's doing so well. He's being such a good boy in this bad weather.